What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and your dreams is a single decision you make every morning when you wake up? What if I told you that every person who has ever achieved greatness faced the exact same enemy you're facing right now? Their own doubt. Once upon a time, there lived a young blacksmith's apprentice named Thomas in a small village nestled between rolling hills and endless meadows. Thomas was not particularly tall, not particularly handsome, and certainly not particularly wealthy. His hands were calloused from working the forge, his clothes were simple and often stained with soot, and his voice trembled whenever he spoke to anyone outside his immediate family. But Thomas had a dream that burned brighter than the hottest fire in his master's forge. He dreamed of creating something magnificent, something that would be remembered long after he was gone. While other apprentices hammered out horseshoes and farming tools, Thomas spent his evenings sketching designs for elaborate sculptures, intricate jewelry, and architectural marvels that existed only in his imagination. The other villagers would often laugh when they caught glimpses of his drawings. "Thomas the dreamer," they would whisper. "Poor boy doesn't know his place in the world." His own master would shake his head disapprovingly whenever he found Thomas lost in his sketches instead of focusing on the mundane work at hand. "Boy," his master would say, his voice heavy with years of resignation, "you'd best learn to be content with making what people need, not what you imagine they might want. Dreams don't put food on the table." For years, Thomas listened to these voices. He began to believe them. He started to see his dreams as foolish fantasies, his sketches as childish scribblings. He convinced himself that he was meant for nothing more than a life of routine craftsmanship, making the same simple tools day after day until his hands could no longer hold a hammer. But deep inside, in a place where the voices of doubt couldn't quite reach, a small flame of belief continued to flicker. It was weak, often nearly extinguished by the harsh winds of criticism and self-doubt, but it never completely died out. One autumn evening, as Thomas was closing up the smithy, a traveling merchant arrived in the village. This merchant was unlike anyone Thomas had ever seen. He wore fine clothes, carried himself with confidence, and spoke of distant lands with exotic names. Most remarkably, he carried with him a collection of metalwork that took Thomas's breath away. The pieces were not mere tools or weapons, but works of art that seemed to capture light and shadow, movement and stillness, all at once. Each piece told a story, evoked an emotion, or celebrated the beauty that could be found in the marriage of skill and imagination. "Who created these?" Thomas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The merchant smiled, recognizing the look of wonder in the young man's eyes. "These were made by artisans who believed in their vision more than they feared failure. Each one started as someone just like you, working in a small shop, dreaming of something greater." That night, Thomas couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the merchant's words and the incredible artwork he had seen. For the first time in years, he pulled out his old sketches and really looked at them. They were rough, certainly, and the work of an untrained hand, but there was something in them, a spark of creativity that demanded to be nurtured rather than dismissed. The next morning, Thomas made a decision that would change the course of his life forever. He chose to believe in himself. It wasn't a dramatic moment. There were no thunderclaps or sudden revelations. It was simply a quiet acknowledgement that his dreams deserved a chance to become reality. He decided that he would rather risk failure pursuing something meaningful than guarantee mediocrity by never trying at all. Thomas began working on his first artistic piece in secret, using scraps of metal that his master wouldn't miss, and working by candlelight long after the forge had cooled. He made mistake after mistake. His first attempts were clumsy and crude. There were nights when he wanted to give up, when the voice of doubt spoke so loudly that he could barely hear his own thoughts. But each time he was tempted to quit, he remembered the traveling merchant's words and the feeling he had experienced when looking at true craftsmanship. He reminded himself that every master had once been a disaster, that every expert had once been a beginner, and that the only difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who don't is the willingness to keep going when things get difficult. Months passed. Thomas's skills slowly improved. His understanding of metal, fire, and form deepened. Most importantly, his belief in himself grew stronger with each small success, each problem solved, each technique mastered. The first piece he completed was a small bronze bird, its wings spread as if caught in the moment of taking flight. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was beautiful in its imperfection, alive with the passion and dedication that had brought it into being. When Thomas finally showed his creation to his master, the older man was speechless. He had expected to see amateur foolishness, but instead he found himself looking at something that spoke to his soul. For the first time in decades, the master remembered what it felt like to see metalwork as more than just a trade. Word of Thomas's artistic abilities spread throughout the village and beyond. People began commissioning custom pieces, drawn to the unique blend of technical skill and creative vision that characterized his work. What had once been dismissive laughter transformed into genuine admiration and respect. But the most profound change was in Thomas himself. The young man who had once trembled when speaking to strangers now carried himself with quiet confidence. He still faced challenges and setbacks, but he no longer saw them as evidence of his inadequacy. Instead, he viewed them as opportunities to learn and grow. Years later, Thomas's workshop became renowned throughout the region. Apprentices traveled from far and wide to learn from him, not just the technical aspects of metalworking, but the more important lesson of believing in one's own potential. To each new apprentice, Thomas would tell his story, emphasizing that the only difference between where he started and where he ended up was a single decision. The decision to believe that his dreams were worth pursuing, regardless of what others said or what obstacles he might face. You see, he would explain to wide-eyed young people who reminded him of his former self, belief in yourself isn't about thinking you're better than everyone else or pretending that success will come easily. It's about recognizing that you have something unique to offer the world, and that this uniqueness deserves to be developed and shared, even if the path is difficult. Thomas's story became legend in the village, passed down from generation to generation as a reminder that extraordinary things can come from ordinary people who dare to believe in themselves. His bronze bird, that first imperfect but passionate creation, was displayed in the village square as a symbol of what becomes possible when we choose faith over fear. The merchant who had unknowingly sparked Thomas's transformation returned to the village many years later. He found a thriving artistic community where once there had been only practical craftsmanship. When he learned the story of how his words had inspired Thomas's journey, he smiled and shared a truth that had guided his own travels. Belief in oneself, he said, is like a seed that lies dormant in every human heart. It doesn't matter where you plant it or what conditions surround it, rich soil or poor, sunshine or shadow. If you water it with action and protect it from the frost of doubt, it will grow into something magnificent. And so, Thomas's story reminds us that the decision to believe in yourself isn't a one-time choice, but a daily commitment to see potential where others see limitation, to find opportunity where others see obstacles, and to pursue growth where others settle for comfort. The path won't always be easy, and success isn't guaranteed. But one thing is certain: you'll never know what you're truly capable of until you give yourself permission to find out. Right now, you have a choice to make. You can close this story and continue believing the voices that tell you to be practical, to settle for less, to accept limitation as reality. Or you can be like Thomas and make the decision that changes everything. The decision to believe in yourself. What dream have you been putting off? What creative project lies dormant in your heart? What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? I challenge you to take one small step toward that dream today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, but today. Draw that sketch, write that first page, make that phone call, or simply spend 10 minutes imagining what your life could look like if you believed in your own potential. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments what dream you're ready to pursue. Your journey of self-belief starts with a single step. What will yours be?